What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today, we're going to take a trip down memory lane and looking at this Bleacher Report article that was dropped a few days ago that regrades 10 of the biggest NBA trades of the last 5 years. So if you do enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on what the biggest flop and win was of the last 5 years for these big trades. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. So yeah, this just breaks down a lot of these trades. We'll jump into it. Phoenix Suns trade for Kevin Durant. So the trade, Brooklyn receives Mikal Bridges, which remember they flipped him. Jay Crowder, they then flipped him. Cam Johnson, they'll flip him. 2023 first round pick, which was Noe County. 2025 first round pick. 2027 first round pick. 2028 first round pick swap, and a 2029 first round pick. The Suns then receive Kevin Durant and TJ Warren. Now, in hindsight, Phoenix got a lot in return for what they gave up, of course. You got one of the best players in the league, Kevin Durant, and at the time, TJ Warren had potential of, he showed flashes in the bubble of Bubble Warren. But, of course, Brooklyn seems to have won this trade. Both have not done anything significant playoff-wise. Obviously, Brooklyn hasn't done anything playoff-wise since Phoenix hasn't put it together quite yet. This seems like the best year for them of the Big Three era for the Phoenix Suns with KD, Book, and Bradley Beal. Now, Brooklyn flipped Mikal Bridges for 5 first-round picks. They then flipped Jay Crowder for 2 seconds. Cam Johnson, I'm assuming he's going to get a pick at least, a first-rounder. Especially around the trade deadline there. Then you have all these picks, which, Noah County seemingly probably not going to turn into too much, but it doesn't hurt to have more picks than the Brooklyn Nets have been an organization that has just flopped trade after trade after trade. You have the famous KG trade that they flopped so hard on that one, giving up guys that ended up becoming, or picks that ended up becoming guys like Jaylen Brown. Here, of course, the Nets regrade is an A+ for sure. Phoenix, the Bleacher Report gives them a B. I'll say maybe a B+, depending on how this year goes. If they go a deep playoff run, it's definitely an A. But at their current position and how they've performed, I would agree. It's probably around a B+. Next up, we have Cleveland trading for Donovan Mitchell. Of course, Cleveland receiving Donovan Mitchell. The Utah Jazz then get Ochai Agbaji, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028 first round swap, 2029 first round pick. Just a few picks, a few swaps. Now the Cavs. The Cavs also in that area like the Suns, where they haven't done too much yet. Yes, they've been hit a little bit by the injury bug with like Darius Garland just getting hit in the face every other play. Then you have someone like Donovan Mitchell. Him and Darius Garland's mix just not really dwelling too well, although that could be injury-ridden. And then Utah. This grade has to be an A+. You went out and you thought that these guys, Agbaji, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, were probably just going to be flipped later in other trades. But Colin Sexton's been playing decently well. Lauri Markkanen is an all-NBA caliber player now. And you got a first-round pick next year. You have a first-round pick in 2027 and a 2029 first-round pick for a team, Donovan Mitchell, that he might not be there in a couple years kind of thing. So we know teams can definitely fail when it comes to those big splash trades. And Utah seems to be coming out on top. Now, of course, they just re-signed Lauri Markkanen, so we'll see what he looks like this year, as well as in the offseason if they look to move off of him for even more draft capital. But, of course, I like this for both teams. I think if you're going to put a winner on this trade, Utah has to be the winner just because Lauri Markkanen has played so well. But I can't give a bad grade to the Cavs. Next up here, we have the Mavericks trading for Kyrie Irving. So the Mavericks get Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris. The Brooklyn Nets then receive Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 first-round pick, a 2027 second-round pick, and a 2029 second-round pick. Now, this trade I didn't necessarily love for the Brooklyn Nets because, of course, you only got one first-round pick. And then Dorian Finney-Smith, or Spencer Dinwiddie's no longer on the roster. Dorian Finney-Smith probably won't be on the roster soon. Now, the one thing is because the market for, trading for guys has exploded quite a lot, someone like Dorian Finney-Smith could get you a pick or two around the trade deadline, or at least a young player for these rosters that are looking to go from young to more veteran, like Houston, for example, could use someone like Dorian Finney-Smith because they have a lot of these younger wings and younger guards. They might look for a more veteran presence. Dallas, though, of course, they made the NBA Finals. You have to give them a good grade there. Kyrie's kind of flipped the narrative the last few seasons on on his outlook outside of basketball and even on the court. So I like this a lot for the Mavericks, of course. The Nets, depending on what they get for Dorian Finney-Smith here soon, it could go up in grade. All right, next up we have the Timberwolves trading for Rudy Gobert. Now, Timberwolves receive Rudy Gobert. Utah then receives Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, draft rights for Walker Kessler, 2023 first-round pick, 2025 first-round pick, 2027 first-round pick, 2029 first-round pick, top 5 protected, and then swap rights on the 2026 first-round pick. So the Wolves, they gave them an A-. I'm going to say it's a B+, or a B, because we haven't seen, they haven't progressed a whole lot. Yes, they have won a little bit in the playoffs. Honestly, upsetting the Nuggets was pretty spectacular for them, as well as the Phoenix Suns. But I have to say that, Utah still got some question marks there. Minnesota still has some question marks there. Utah, though, you turn Jared Vanderbilt into some assets, of course. Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, not really too sweating on that. Walker Kessler could be decent. He had a pretty rough sophomore season. And then these picks. That's the thing. These picks here is what Utah's looking for. They're going to have a boatload of picks. They're going down the Oklahoma City route where they're trading all their assets and just going and getting picks, and it makes sense. They gave the Jazz an A+. Because of the amount of draft capital that they got. Kings and Pacers swap Sabonis and Halliburton. I was surprised by these grades here. The Indiana Pacers received Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. The Kings then received Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2023 second-round pick, which ended up being Jordan Walsh. The grade for the Sacramento Kings is an A. I would like to agree with that. Sabonis has been phenomenal for y'all. He's finished towards the top of the league in rebounds and points, and he's been playing pretty phenomenally. He's close to averaging a triple-double, of course. I was shocked that Bleacher Report gave them an A+, the Pacers, but I like the fact that they gave the Pacers a better grade. Nothing against the Kings, but they just haven't done anything in the playoffs. Indiana just made the Eastern Conference Finals, and I know what everyone's going to say is, oh, the West is so much better than the East. Well, then don't trade for a guy who isn't going to elevate you higher than that. Trade for players like you need to make bigger splash trades then. If you're going to go out and say like, oh, the West is so much tougher, then you need to be making moves that are better than what you're making. I like this Sabonis fit. I think he works really well in Sacramento and everything, but you can't just be settling. Indiana, they looked at the East being quote-unquote weaker and said, we could do something here. And said, we need to go fast, get young, everything like that. That's exactly what they did. They brought in pieces that fit them to a T. Pascal Siakam. At one point in time, Pascal Siakam was an all-star, all-NBA caliber player. He and Tyrese have fit perfectly together, right? The Kings, they went and they got DeMar DeRozan, who does not fit with Fox and Sabonis because they all clog the lane. That's just my whole thing for this entire trade here, is the organization behind them. Not necessarily the players, but the organization has failed Sabonis and the Kings. Next up here, we have the Lakers trading for Russell Westbrook. The Lakers receive Russell Westbrook, a 2024 second-round pick, and a 2028 second-round pick. The Wizards then receive Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, a number 22 pick, which was Isaiah Jackson, in the 2021 draft. Grade for the Lakers is an F, of course. You have to admit that that was a terrible trade, as you just won a championship, and then you trade Kyle Kuzma, who was a championship contending piece, KCP, championship contending piece, for a guy Russell Westbrook that didn't amount to anything for the Lakers. Yes, he's revamped his career a little bit now that he's bought into the idea of coming off the bench, but still, it didn't work. It was a failed trade. Kyle Kuzma has played pretty decent in Washington, nothing crazy. KCP ended up going to Denver after this and then winning a championship. So, and then we'll see, of course, Isaiah Jackson. I mean, it didn't amount to a huge amount. Next up, we have the Bulls trading for Nikola Vucevic. Now, at the time, I had thought that Vucevic was going to be the perfect fit for the Bulls. They went and they got a dominant center at the time. Orlando, he was playing phenomenal. The Bulls received Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu. The Magic then received Wendell Carter, Otto Porter Jr., and this is where it starts to hurt. Franz Wagner. And then, of course, Jet Howard, which we'll see what he amounts to. I agree with this grade. This might be closer to an F because you gave up Wendell Carter, who's been playing pretty well for Orlando, and you gave up Franz Wagner for no amounts of playoff victories. The Magic, yes, I agree. A grade, could be an A+, depending on how the full length of Franz Wagner's development. 76ers trade for James Harden. So the 76ers get James Harden and Paul Millsap, which is crazy because Paul Millsap seems like he's been out of the league for a while. And then the Nets receive Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, Ben Simmons, a 2023 first-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. I think this is probably closer to a D grade in my opinion just because it didn't amount to anything. That's huge. Like, you make a big trade where you trade somebody that's a solid role player in Seth Curry, a guy who is going to get boards. He's now back on the Sixers. Going to get boards for you, solid depth in Andre Drummond. And then, of course, you had to get rid of Ben Simmons. The whole controversy around Ben Simmons. You then give up a first-round pick, which, of course, he didn't turn into anything. You gave up a 2027 first-round pick also. That is another big thing. Is this 2027 first-round pick, I mean, that's possibly, that's 3 years down the road, and Embiid could no longer want to be there. Embiid's going to be older at that point. He's like 32-ish, I believe, right now, so he's going to be right around 35. He could be towards the end of his career, especially with a 7-foot center who's constantly injured. He might look to hang it up early. So that could be an extremely valuable pick. Nets regrade here, a D. I'm not going to say that necessarily. I think that 2027 first-round pick could save that. I'd say that this is more like a C+. I'd say they're pretty even trade right there. Here we have the Nuggets trading for Aaron Gordon. Now, the Nuggets received Aaron Gordon, Gary Clark, and the Magic received Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a 2025 protected first-round pick. The Nuggets get an A+, of course. He helped them win a championship. He has played into his role, and that is what has made him a championship caliber player. Gary Harris and R.J. Hampton haven't really amounted to much in Orlando. This pick, I don't really think it's going to be too valuable. I think the Nuggets will be good next year. At least they'll be above the lottery, so I don't really see that being too good. So that being said, the grade there, they didn't give a grade for Orlando. I'm going to give it like a C area. Aaron Gordon wasn't working for you in Orlando, so you had to move off of him. But what you got back, R.J. Hampton didn't amount to anything. This pick could amount to something, but of course with Denver being good, it most likely won't. Last but finally not least, the trade here, Clippers receive Norman Powell and Robert Covington. The Trailblazers then get Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a 2025 second-round pick. This was just kind of I was surprised that they put this trade here. I understand they put the regrade for the NBA here at a D. The league wanted to prevent teams from endlessly adding salary, and the Powell trade was a prime example of the NBA on how they needed to change the rules. These guys it's just okay kind of thing for the Trailblazers. No first-round pick there. Norman Powell and Robert Covington, I thought that they were going to be a lot better for the Clippers than they ended up being, especially with monsters over there like eventually James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. I thought that this roster was going to be built for contending for a championship, and it just never did. A lot of that dealing with injuries, a part of that also just being the fact that they just got outperformed by Dallas. So Yeah, guys, I definitely think that the Clippers regrade, I mean, it's probably more towards a C area for me, C minus, just because it didn't really amount to much. I think that's huge to me. What did the trade do to affect your future? Like, how did that future shape out to be? Did it elevate you like the Nuggets and it brought you a championship because you traded for Aaron Gordon? Absolute A plus. Did it the year after you won a championship, you failed dramatically by trading Kyle Kuzma for Russell Westbrook, and then you barely make the playoffs now? That's an F, of course. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. With that being said, it's been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.